Good morning, ladies and gentlemen of the media. Welcome to our post-cabinet brief for Thursday, April 27, 2017. This morning, the brief will be given by the Minister of State, the Honorable Joseph Harmon. Mr. Harmon.
Thank you, Mr. Archer. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen of the media. The post-cabinet press brief covers matters that were dealt with at Cabinet on Tuesday, the 25th of April, 2017. I got the date right today. Cabinet, at its meeting, approved a proposal put forward by the Honorable Minister of Public Infrastructure to engage a consultancy firm called Energy Narrative to undertake a desk study on the options, cost, economics, impact, and key considerations of transporting and utilizing natural gas from offshore Guyana for electricity generation. Energy Narrative is an experienced company in the energy sector in the Caribbean and understands the challenges of developing natural gas infrastructure and adapting the electricity sector to accommodate natural gas. The study should have commenced in April of this year and will be for a duration of 8 weeks. The cost of the study is estimated at US $70,000. The Honorable Minister of Social Protection has submitted the annual report for 2013 and 2014 for the former Ministry of Labor, Human Services and Social Security to Cabinet. The Honorable Minister has also submitted the annual report for the Sugar Industry Labor Welfare Fund Committee for the year 2015. The submission of these reports is part of a continuing process of regularizing the lack of accountability by many government agencies over the years prior to 2015 and underscores the present administration's commitment to transparency and accountability. Cabinet accepted the reports and approved for them to be laid in the National Assembly as provided for by law. Cabinet has approved the appointment of a board of directors for the privatization board. The persons appointed were Dr. Granty Waldron, chairperson, the Honorable Dominic Gaskin, the Honorable Jaipal Sharma, Ministers of Government, Mrs. Sabina Savory, member, Mr. Grantley Colbart, member, and a private sector representative, also a member. The board will serve up to December 31st, 2017. The appointment of a board of directors of the National Communication Network was also approved. Directors appointed were Mr. Enrico Wilford, chairman, Mrs. Beverly Alert, Mrs. Margaret Lawrence, Mr. Gordon Mosley, Mr. Michael Leonard, Mrs. Kamal Prasad, and Mr. Dane Gobing. The board will serve from May 21st, 2017 to April 30th, 2018. Cabinet has approved the appointment of His Excellency Anne Gerard van Leeuwen as a non-resident ambassador of the Kingdom of the Netherlands to Guyana. Guyana and the Kingdom of Netherlands established diplomatic relations in May 1970 and continues to have very cordial relations that have been conducted mainly through the Latin America and Caribbean and European Union, the AFCP-EU, and the United Nations. Ambassador van Leeuwen will be resident in Suriname and will present his credentials to Guyana very shortly. Approval has been granted for the attendance at the 8th meeting of the Technical Advisory Committee of the Caribbean Disaster Emergency Management Agency, SEDEMA, scheduled to be held in Barbados from May 8th to the 12th, 2017. The Technical Committee is an organ of the agency that makes recommendations for consideration at its Council of Ministers. The 8th meeting will provide for capacity building and seek to develop a plan for the program of member countries for the next 12 months. Major Kester Craig, Deputy Director General of the Civil Defense Commission, will attend the meeting. Guyana will be represented at the Global Environmental Facility, GEF, Caribbean Constituency Meeting and Workshop to be held in St. George's, Grenada from May 15th to the 19th, 2017. The meeting will discuss matters of interest to Caribbean constituency members and to define positions for the Global Environmental Facility Council meeting to be held in June 2017. The following persons will attend the meeting: Mr. Kemraj Parasram, the Acting Executive Director of the Environmental Protection Agency; Mrs. Janelle Christian, the Head of the Office of Climate Change; Mrs. Bibi Asma Sharif, Multilateral Environmental Agreement Coordinator, Department of the Environment; and Mrs. Diana Fernandes, Environmental Officer 2, Environmental Protection Agency. Cabinet has approved attendance at the 34th International Drug Enforcement Conference that is scheduled to be held in the Dominican Republic from May 16 to the 18th, 2017. The International Drug Enforcement Conference was established in 1983 to unite the highest-ranking officials dedicated to the global fight against drug trafficking. It includes representatives of 125 countries and provides for the exchange of information and international cooperation in the fight against drug trafficking at the international level. The conference will be attended by Mr. Silal Prasad, Commissioner of Police, and Mr. Leslie Ramlal, Deputy Head of the Customs Anti-Narcotic Unit. Approval has been granted for attendance at a regional workshop on special investigative techniques applied in money laundering investigations to be held in Kingston, Jamaica from May 16th to the 18th. The workshop, organized by the Organization of American States, will be attended by prosecutors and law enforcement officers from the Caribbean. It will examine international legal frameworks governing the use of the investigative techniques and their application within national framework. Superintendent Trevor Reed of the Guyana Police Force will attend the workshop. Guyana will also attend an international police organization, Interpol, organized meeting in international drug trafficking to be held in Santiago, Chile from May 16th to the 18th. The meeting of the Cocaine Route Program and Fortaleza Project Working Group will focus on drug trafficking from South America through the Caribbean and West Africa and into Europe. It will also facilitate the exchange of information and recently closed investigations on drug trafficking and identify drug-related organized crime members. Superintendent DeHart and Eastman of the Guyana Police Force will attend the meeting. Cabinet approved participation in a regional seminar on enhancing strategic trade and border controls in Latin America and the Caribbean. That was held in Lima, Peru from April 25th to the 26th. The seminar was organized by the United Nations Office for Disarmament Affairs and the Organization of American States, and sought to foster a better understanding of the border and export controls outlined in the United Nations Security Council Resolution number 1540, with a view of advancing its full implementation and the risks associated with the acquisition and use of weapons of mass destruction by terrorist elements. Senior Superintendent Paul Langevine of the Guyana Police Force and Mr. Royston Tudor, Supervisor of Customs, Excise and Trade Operations of the GRA, attended the seminar. Ranks of the Guyana Police Force will attend a protection detail briefing course to be held in San Salvador, El Salvador from May 1st to the 5th. The course will introduce participants to protective procedures and techniques utilized to provide protection at varying levels of dignitaries. The course will be attended by 6 ranks of the Guyana Police Force. Guyana will be represented at a regional recognition awards program organized by the Association of Caribbean Commissioners of Police to be held in Aruba from May 1st to the 5th, and Assistant Superintendent of Police Mitchell Caesar will attend that program. Cabinet has also approved the attendance at a 2-week course on macroeconomic management in resource-rich countries to be held in Washington, D.C., United States of America, from May 15th to the 26th. The course, organized by the International Monetary Fund, will seek to facilitate the incorporation of the petroleum sector into, and it is expected that Guyana will be better equipped to develop its macroeconomic policies for this sector. The course will be attended by Mrs. Sonia Rupnath, Director of Budget, Mrs. Deborah Roberts, Technical Assistant, and Dr. Natasha Gaskin-Peters, Senior Economics and Financial Analysts, all of the Ministry of Finance. Approval has also been granted for the attendance at the 44th meeting of the Executive Council of the Caribbean Organization of Tax Administrators, COTA, scheduled to be held in St. Kitts and Nevis from April 27 to 28. Guyana is the chairperson of the Executive Council, and the meeting will address the following issues: A, comprehensive review of conclusions and recommendations from the 23rd Technical Conference; B, planning for the 24th General Assembly of COTA; and C, a review of COTA's work program for 2013-2014. Mr. Ron Simbu, Deputy Commissioner, Inland Revenue Department, Management Division of the Guyana Revenue Authority, will attend the meeting. Cabinet noted the award of contracts by the procurement entities and the National Procurement and Tender Administration Board as follows. For the extension of the Charles Rosa School of Nursing faculty, building, and external works, the Ministry of Public Health, contract in the sum of $22,757,000, awarded to Floyd Melville Construction. For the construction of living quarters at Mazruni Prisons, Ministry of Public Security, for Lot 1, contract in the sum of $28,141,000, awarded to Air Nazir and Sons Contracting. For Lot 2, in the sum of $30,447,000, the contract awarded to Arkisoon Contracting Services. For the construction of Mental Health Institute building, Ministry of Public Health, a contract in the sum of $61,284,000, awarded to Dudnot Construction and Supplies. For the construction of student dormitories at Liliendal, Region Number 4, Ministry of Indigenous Peoples Affairs, for the sum of $186,390,000, contract awarded to BK International, Inc. Contract variations for the renovation, remodeling work to the National Data Management Authority building, Ministry of Public Telecommunications, from the sum of $629,000 to the sum of $34,939,000, an increase of $11,559,000. This contract was awarded to J.R. Edmondson Building Works, and it's a contract that deals with the grant from the Indian government for the development of the IT sector. For the construction of a pedestrian overhead crossing at Providence, East Bank Region Number 4, Ministry of Public Infrastructure, a contract in the sum of $364,246, US dollars that is, a contract awarded to S. Jagmohan Hardware Supplies and Construction Services. For the provision of consultancy services for the design of the expansion of the Mazoni prison, the Ministry of Public Security, contract in the sum of $26,505,000, and that contract was awarded to VICAB Guyana Limited. For the rehabilitation of the pump basin and steel revetment at Manarabisi Pump Station, Region Number 6, the Ministry of Agriculture, a contract in the sum of $19,411,000 awarded to DSA Mechanical Workshop. For the rehabilitation of a timber wharf and score protection at Maibikuri Pump Station, Blackbush Polder, Region Number 6, Ministry of Agriculture, a contract in the sum of $31,990,000 awarded to the DSA Mechanical Workshop. For the construction of a drainage structure and rehabilitation of the earthen embankment from Bushlot to Triangle at Wakenham Island, Region Number 3, the Ministry of Agriculture, contract in the sum of $24,452,000 awarded to S. Mirage Contracting Services. For the supply and delivery of 5,100 tons of crusher run for the rehabilitation of roads along Canal Number 1 and 2 and the West Bank Demerara Public Road, the Ministry of Public Infrastructure, for the sum of $37,850,000, contract award to BK International Inc. For the initial cleaning and manual monthly maintenance cleaning of 23,104 rods of drainage and irrigation channels within Hope Estate Community Development Council area, Region Number 4, from May to December 2017, Ministry of Agriculture, contract in the sum of $15,774,000, awarded to Hope Estate Farmers Community Council. And finally, for the initial cleaning and manual monthly maintenance cleaning of 29,330 rods of drainage and irrigation channels within Crabwood Creek Water Users Association area, Region Number 6, from February to December 2017, the Ministry of Agriculture, a contract in the sum of $15,776,000 awarded to the Crabwood Creek Water Users Association. Ladies and gentlemen, those are the matters that were dealt with at Cabinet at this meeting, and I'm now prepared to take your questions.
Gary Eliezer, Demerara Waves. Minister, sir, on the energy study that you spoke about earlier, can you say what source data this company will be using? Will they be using Exxon information, or will they be generating their own information? And can you say why this information about this contract or study was not supplied to the parliamentary committee that met recently?
Okay, I'll tell you, the energy narrative is based on experience. In fact, this company has experience in the energy sector in the Caribbean and understands the challenges that it involves. The energy narrative was asked to submit its financial and technical proposals in which the following would be addressed. One, the proposed duration of a consultancy works. Two, the relevant experience and expertise, evidence through a current CV, proposed work methodology, and a review of the draft terms of reference and proposed recommendations. The financial proposal was to include the proposed costs to undertake the consultancy works, the commissions, gratuities, and fees, if any, to be paid, and any other associated costs in relation to travel, accommodation, etc. The task to be done in the study would be to verify natural gas supply projections. Two, to verify natural gas demand projections. Three, to analyze the technical feasibility of the proposed natural gas pipeline. Four, to compare the proposed natural gas pipeline with other transportation media. Five, to analyze the technical feasibility of existing power generation equipment and integrating new gas-fired electricity generation equipment. Six, to analyze the costs to deliver natural gas and the estimated impact on electricity prices and prepare the interim report. So these are tasks which have been given. It's a desktop study, and therefore it is expected that the company, with the experience that it has in the Caribbean and in further field, will provide government with that information, and they will basically generate their own information for that purpose.
Minister just a quick follow-up. Sir, could you say if there is any figure being counted with respect to the cost for the construction of the gas pipeline?
No, I am not aware of that,
Okay.
of a cost for that.
Well, you didn't say why the information wasn't supplied to Parliament recently.
I can't say. I can't say why it wasn't supplied. If in fact they did ask for it, I'm not sure. Yes.
Adam Harris, Prime News. Sir, you're expanding the Mazroni prisons. May I ask, how many additional prisons are you preparing to accommodate? In short, what is the size of the expansion?
Okay, the Mazroni prison, in fact, most of it is really, a lot of the work is rehabilitation work in the first instance. As you know, the Mazroni prison is on real estate that is about 20 acres of land. That's the rough size of the establishment, and it caters for living accommodation for the prison officers, the blocks for the inmates, as well as land for agricultural development and so on. It also includes, these terms will of course include providing a proper fence for the entire 20 acres and expanding the present facilities. As you know, the intention was to move some of the prisoners from the Georgetown prison to the Mazroni prison. And the intention is basically to provide accommodation for that purpose. We are trying to make better accommodation for prisoners that are in keeping with the standards that are obtained all around the world. So the facilities that we provide for Guyanese, even though they're in prison, we still have to deal with them and treat with them as proper human beings, and therefore the conditions that we provide for them in these facilities, and we're looking to upgrade those, at the same time trying to strengthen the security facilities there at the Mazroni prison. I can't give you specifically what the numbers are right now, but I can say that the intention basically is to move some of the long-term prisoners from Georgetown and to take them to the Mazroni.
Quick follow-up, sir. I mean, for people who don't know, when you talk about the prisons, people see Georgetown prisons, but there is also another prison at Mazroni, Sibley Hall. I haven't heard anything about that. Is that to be upgraded? Has that been scaled down? What is the situation at Sibley Hall?
Sibley Hall is a part of the Mazroni prisons. It is not separate and distinct from the rest of it. It is a part of the Mazroni prisons, and it was established many years ago, of course, you know, for specific purposes. We actually utilize all of the prison now to deal with the prisoners who are actually in prison, and therefore we have to utilize the space for prisoners. We are not making provisions that you seem to be suggesting for any political detainees as
I know you
such.
used to have young offenders and worse offenders there.
Well, young offenders were never there. Young offenders were at the New Opportunity Corps on the Essequibo. And first offenders usually were in the prisons in Georgetown, at Timeri, at Lusignan, and New Amsterdam. But in previous times, it was really the long-serving sentences and the hardcore criminals that actually went to the Mazuni prison. But the facilities are in need of repairs and renovation, and we are taking that steps. Last year, you'd recall the president himself visited along with the Minister of Public Security and had a first-hand look at what was there and recognized that we needed to do a little better insofar as providing facilities for the prison officers who, to get from there to some of their homes on the coast, one trip sometimes costs 1/3 of their salaries. And so we have to basically be able to provide facilities for them. We have to provide facilities for them to become a little bit more self-sufficient so that you don't have to be spending extra sums of money on dietary supplies when they can provide those things right there.
As it relates to NCS,
Yes.
as it relates to NCS new board, what are some of the expectations of the government in terms of allowing NCN to operate at a more efficient level?
Well, I would expect the new board will look at policy and the guidelines that they will receive with respect to ensuring that the entity operates as an entity that provides information to the Guyanese public, that the information is timely, it is accurate, and that it is something that the Guyanese people can look forward to, relying on the information provided by the NCN. But of course, they're a board and they are not the management of the NCN. And so generally sometimes boards need to understand that their policy and they drive policy and they're not day-to-day management. So in providing this quality of personnel to the board, we're expecting that the policy of the NCN, insofar as providing public information, providing it on a timely basis, will be strengthened, that the questions of transparency, the questions of accountability will all be enforced.
What about political interference? Because NCN has been criticized in the past for having a high level of political interference.
Well, I trust that the board will be guided by what they have actually seen, the fact that this APNU AFC administration, that we are about inclusiveness, that we are about providing information to the Guyanese public that affects them. Like someone at the TV station that think they have information that you need to know. This is what you need to know. And so the Guyanese people information that the Guyanese people need to know. It's provided on a timely basis that you have informed discussions, analysis on issues that affect Guyanese on a daily basis, analysis of projections and so on as to what our country is going to be like. Things like that, that really the National Communication Agency should be providing, because it is national in nature and not partisan politically, or doesn't cater to one geographic constituency.
All right. I just have two other questions. Last week you promised to give us an update as it relates to the presidential term limit and whether or not, how is that going in terms of taking it to the CCJ?
Well, yes, I did in fact promise that, and I've been advised by the Attorney General that an appeal has been filed, but that we have to await now the written judgment of the Court of Appeal in order to proceed further. But that is basically where we are. An appeal, a notice of appeal, I should say, has been filed, and the specific terms will have to await the production of the written judgment by the court.
Okay. And any new updates on the police investigation into the assassination plot?
Well, you see, it's ongoing. It's an ongoing police investigation, and I wouldn't comment further on that.
Mr. Harmon, good morning. Sir, and Ryan Catcher News. Minister, concerns have been raised over the announcement of engineers' estimates at Embotap. Now, we've seen contractors consistently sort of bidding below, sometimes $10, $12 million below the engineer's estimate. And it raises questions whether or not these engineers are competent in delivering this estimate. And it means also that contractors can do the work $10 million, $12 million cheaper. Now, is this normal for contractors to be way below the engineer's estimate?
Well, it's what you call, it's an estimate. And therefore, when the engineering estimate is what I would call a barometer as to what you should aim at. And therefore, in terms of efficiencies or the availability of raw material and so on to certain contractors, they may be able to bid a bit lower. Some might be able to bid a bit higher. But certainly, the question of the engineering estimate is a matter of the competence of the engineers. And it's a matter which I believe we will have to ask the Guyana Association of Professional Engineers to revisit. The Ministry of Public Infrastructure, I know, they are looking at the issue very carefully, and that is why it did surface. Because in awarding contracts, we are actually seeing where the deficiencies lie. The fact that some contractors have to come for variations after the work had been done, the fact that you have to have now extensions and all of these things speak to, in very many cases, the competency of the engineer's estimate which started the project in the first place. So that is a matter which, as a government, we have taken on board, and I'm using this opportunity here also to call on the Guyana Association of Professional Engineers to address this matter so that the public can have confidence in the estimate which these engineers provide.
Still on the engineer issue, sir, there have been calls also for some amendments to the Engineers Act. I understand that it hasn't been amended in a few years, and you know, in engineering it continuously evolves, and I just wanted to ask you, sir, if the government will be moving in that direction to probably make some changes to the act to cater for the different types of engineering or different methods that are now being coming on stream.
Yes, you know, I recalled a few years ago when I think it was the last engineering conference which I attended at the conference center, the Atachung Conference Center, that the engineers had actually flagged that point, that there was need for some amendments to be made to the act. I believe that at that time, the Guyana Association of Professional Engineers had made some recommendations, but I cannot say where that has gone and where it is right now. But I agree with you that there's need for us to revisit that situation so that we can ensure that the engineering estimates, that the engineering designs and so on, they keep up to date with current trends and current building in the industry.
Thank you, sir.
Kurt Campbell, News Source. Minister Harmon, could you say if the Prime Minister has submitted a white paper on public information to Cabinet? And if yes, could you say what are some of the highlights of that paper?
Well, once the paper is submitted to Cabinet, you can be assured that I will report it at the post-Cabinet press briefing. So we haven't dealt with that paper as yet.
Andrew B. Headline News. Minister Harmon, it has been the third time the president left these shores the same day, and the press only known about it the same day. The last time he left was at the Bahamas. We learned of him leaving the same day. Now this time he left for the UK, and we heard about it last Sunday, probably when he was about to board a plane. I want to know, sir, if this is a policy of this government to inform the general press of the president's movement outside of the country on the same day when he's leaving. Your response, sir.
Well, you can at least be assured that you got it even before he left on the same day. But the important thing is what it is that the president is doing. That is more important. And the president's activities once he's abroad is covered, it is reported. on a daily basis. I'm sure you are getting images, you're getting statements, you're getting reports on the President's current visit to United Kingdom and the engagements he's had with business people, his audience with Her Majesty the Queen, and his audience with members of the British government, the British administration, and the fact that we can look forward to certain visits by the Secretary of State, the Minister of State, that is, for this region, and several other issues that will come out of it. So he is keeping us abreast about what he's doing. Some matters are matters of state which require a certain level of security, and therefore are dealt with at another level. But certainly public engagements are all reported, and they're reported widely. Even the photographs and so on that are reported widely. So we will always endeavor to keep the Guyanese public informed of His Excellency, the President's activities, and we shall do so, we continue to do so in a timely manner.
Minister, would you think it was prudent enough to have a wider cross-section of media rep to attend or to accompany the President on these trips? Because having just one press there could manipulate the information.
Well, I don't know about manipulating information. This is the President's, that's the President's press and publicity, and that's it. I'm sure if the other members of the media you want to have to travel yourself at your own expense, then I'm sure you're free to do so.
We should be notified in advance.
Well, you'll get, at least you can get there in time. I take the point, Mr. I take the point, yes. Mr. Archer's here, he takes the point too. Yes.
Minister, could you say, at the level of the executive, what are some of the criteria that are considered or used in determining the appointment of a police commissioner?
Of a police commissioner? What I can say to you is that for the appointment, the substantive appointment of a police commissioner requires the consultation between the President and the leader of the opposition.
Right,
that's procedurally. Criterion, otherwise it is really coming through the ranks and satisfying the requirements of the Guyana Police Force. First of all, you've got to, at a certain level, it will be the Police Service Commission satisfying those requirements up to a certain level. I believe it is up to the level of Assistant Commissioner, Senior Superintendent, thereabout. But after that is a matter of performance and the fact that the President must be satisfied with the person who is nominated for that job, that position, and then he makes a recommendation to the leader of the opposition, who would then meet, and then the appointment will be made.
But is the executive conducting background checks to determine the integrity of the prospective candidate?
Well, we have not had the opportunity of doing so as yet. We have not, since we came into office, appointed a substantive police commissioner, but I'm sure that at the appropriate time that those things will be done. Well, that's a matter of the police force organization, and it's something which we are aware of.
Shabna Rahman, Sabnis. Mr. Harmon, regarding the contracts that have been approved, can you say if there's a website where you put in no objections for the public to see?
Well, the contracts are usually placed on the Ministry of Presidency website. I think it goes out there. I believe that the Procurement and Tender Board Administration and maybe Public Procurement Commission will also have a website where you'll get that information. But certainly the information that we are putting out here goes online very shortly. If not, it's not probably online already.
Good morning, Minister Harmon. Svetlana from the Guyana Chronicle. Yesterday, the Finance Minister indicated that there's still some unanticipated expenditure. And in the past, you would have indicated that some measures were going to be implemented Could you list at least 3 of those measures and say how effective they have been?
The measures for what?
Uh,
Unanticipated
Expenditure
expenses?
over the 2017 budget.
Well, unanticipated expenses are what it says. There's unanticipated.
Yes.
And therefore, the Minister of Finance would have had several of those which is basically would deal with. And I'm sure he'll be prepared to tell you what those are. But he is in a position to say what these on anticipated expenditure, what they amount to. I have a general sense as to what it is, but the specific details of it you can get from him.
No, but in the past you had said that government was going to implement certain measures besides reducing, for example,
Oh.
reducing envelopes.
Yes,
Right?
yes.
And so I'm now asking, what are some of the measures, the other measures
Yes.
the government would have implemented to
Mhm.
ensure that we really cut back on our expenditure?
Okay, thanks very much. I now understand where you're getting at. Well, firstly, it's first of all a matter of getting the personnel within the government to understand the need for these changes to be made. Only recently, the reason why I had to ask for this meeting, this conference to be pushed back by a half an hour, was because I was addressing the permanent secretaries in the government, in the ministries, on some of these same issues, the issues of the way we actually go out to contract and what it is that we order in the ministries and where we can cut back on some of these things and why we should focus on purchasing local products, where basically I emphasize with them the importance of buying local and supporting local industry. Already, Minister Trotman made a statement, I think last week, about the use of pine doors and so on imported into this country, and the cost that was involved with that, and indicated that we'll be focusing more on local material. This was also something I dealt with with the permanent secretaries, insofar as the use of building material, that we don't all have to use green heart. That there's several species of wood in this country that can do the same thing as green heart could. And so we discussed that as well. And in very many ways, we find that we can reduce the costs to the government if we were to be prudent in the way we actually go about tendering, contracting, and supervising the works which the government has to do. And that's a big expenditure. The items I had indicated to you earlier, we've actually circulated to the government, the ministries, a document which speaks towards conservation and the way we can cut back on expenses in the government. But the big ones, the big ticket items, are the contracts which we award and the way we go about supervising those contracts and the items which we put into these contracts. You'll be surprised to see some of the things that actually, because sometimes the ministry just takes an old list from way back, so every year they use the same list for the use of dietary supplies or so on to a particular ministry. And if you go through the list, you say, well, why are we buying sardines? Why don't we buy fish, locally preserved fish? Why don't we buy dry shrimp? Why don't we buy plantains and these things? So that we can promote local industries, we can promote the development of these industries in this country by just changing a little bit on the way the government purchases things. That it will be a big help to some of our local farmers or local producers. And so these are some of the things we discussed, and these are some of the things that we are basically addressing right now in the government.
Mr. Minister, quickly, when will our negotiations resume with the Public Service Union?
Well, we are in constant contact with the Public Service Union. I can't give you a specific date about when the negotiations will resume. I suppose you're talking about resumption of negotiations on salaries and conditions. Yes, I can't give you a specific date about that. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, and do have a pleasant weekend. Thank you. It's a long weekend too. Yes.